Okay, real talk right now. If you are looking to sell your crochet patterns on Etsy, we need to have a conversation because Etsy right now is overrun with AI patterns, AI slop, not real designers trying to scam people with AI generated patterns. And it is sad to see, especially since Etsy has been such a great platform in the past for handmade sellers, but also pattern designers as well. But it can still be a good option to sell your patterns on, especially because Etsy is established. There are other options out there, but in this video, I just really want to talk about Etsy. And if you are wanting to start to list your crochet patterns on Etsy, I have a few pieces of advice that I want to give you based off of some recent research that I've been doing. Because I'm currently running a group coaching program for some pattern designers, and we are looking at setting up Etsy's right now. So I have been looking a lot at Etsy, and I have been looking at what people have been doing wrong in their listings, and also what's waving my red flag as a potential buyer on Etsy. So let's talk about a couple of mistakes that you can be making on your Etsy listings that may make people think, oh, I don't actually trust this pattern. I think this may be AI. So the first thing is professional photos. Now, in the past, I feel like professional photos were a must on Etsy. You needed to be putting your best foot forward. You needed to have great lighting and some staging and make it look just beautiful to catch attention. Now, this is something that, as someone who has done photography, I think is valuable. I love when photos look great on listings, when they catch attention, when they are beautiful. But in the age of AI, where AI can make beautiful looking photos. Now, there may be a lot of things wrong with them, but they do look nice aesthetically. When I see a nice photo on an Etsy listing, I immediately am questioning if it's AI or not, because it makes me think of AI. And as someone who isn't quite familiar with everything you can do in crochet, I am not able to just look at a pattern and say whether or not it's AI, because I know that this thing is impossible to do in crochet. And a lot of your buyers of patterns don't always have that skill as well to actually be able to look at it and tell if it can be real or not. So having a professional photo automatically brings up the AI red flag for me, because I can't tell for sure based off of a design and the photo looks great. And AI makes photos look good. And like, it feels terrible to say like great photos equal AI, but it's just something that you have to keep in mind. I've had a conversation recently with one of my clients that she's saying that I feel like I need to be more authentic and actually like have lesser quality photos because they look more real. And because that builds more trust that I'm not an AI designer. And I'm like, you're not wrong, because when I did a review looking at cross stitch patterns on Etsy, I could not tell which ones were AI and which ones weren't until I found a listing where someone was holding it in their hand and they had a very dark vignette around the photo, and it was a fine photo, but you know, it's not the highest quality photo that you could use. And I saw that and I'm like, that's a real person, because first off, hands make me think of real people. Yes, AI can generate hands and things like that, but there is a look to it and they can mess them up. But also the photo didn't look great. And I'm like, this looks like a real person. And then I look at the rest of their profile and it further looks like a real person. So that actually made me trust that designer over everyone else, because their photos just were a little worse than everyone else's. So that's something that I would recommend if you are starting to list patterns on Etsy. Don't use perfect photos, and don't use AI to enhance your photos, because AI has a very smoothing effect that even if you just use it to enhance, can add that smoothing effect, which makes it look AI even if the photos themselves are real. So don't use AI to enhance your photos. Don't use AI to even create graphics of your photos as well. If you want to add like text on the photo itself to say that it's a PDF pattern or anything like that, just do it with Canva and you can make it look not professional, because that will make it look more real. So that's one thing that gives me a red flag when I look at Etsy listings for patterns that may be AI. So the second thing that like gives me a red flag that a pattern may be AI is its pricing. For some reason, AI patterns on Etsy are always like $1 to $2. Like no matter what the pattern is, it's always like $1 to $2. And they'll have like big bundles of patterns and it'll be like $2 for like 30 patterns. And that immediately gives me a red flag that, okay, this is an AI pattern, because a designer will not be selling a pattern for $2 if it's not a $2 pattern. So for example, like granny square patterns, I see those tend to be on the cheaper side. They'll be like, I don't know, about $3, let's say, for a granny square pattern. That is a price that I expect a granny square pattern to be at. But if I see something like a more intricate cardigan pattern that has multiple different sizes and has a awesome design on the back and it's super specialty, and I see that it's listed for $2 for the pattern, red flag, because no way is that pattern only $2. That is not like the market price for that kind of pattern. And while some people, especially newer designers, may undercharge for their patterns, they're still about an average price. People tend to price around the same as each other because that's just how the market works. You know, $5 for a hat pattern is about average, but if I see one for $1, I'm thinking AI pattern slop company versus just a really amateur designer. So pricing your patterns at a reasonable price that is similar to other makers in your field is actually a better strategy for your patterns. Do not undersell the pattern just because you may be, beginner, amateur, all of that. Price it around the same price. And of course, if you are an amateur pattern designer, you maybe sell it for like $1 less than most other patterns in the market. Like that is an option, but don't sell it at $1 to $2 just for a pattern because you don't think it's worth $5, because that makes me think it's an AI pattern. And this goes out to just anyone really pricing their patterns. Definitely avoid undervaluing your patterns. And if you ever do a bundle of patterns, don't make it cheap. Don't make it super cheap where it's only $3 for 20 patterns, because that again is a huge red flag that this is an AI like pattern scam essentially. And that's really how I feel about it as well. When I see these AI patterns on Etsy, they are scams. They are not usually real patterns that people can actually follow with actual real instructions. They're usually just typing it into AI, hey, generate a pattern for XYZ thing for me, and not even checking what the pattern says half the time. It's not usually pattern tested. It's not even double checked by the person giving AI a prompt. It's just made and then put out into the world. They don't care about the actual instructions themselves. Now, the third thing that would give me a red flag on a crochet pattern on Etsy and thinking that it might be AI is the name. When you put more things in your name to kind of like optimize it for SEO, that can feel a little fake. And I say that because these companies are creating these listings of AI patterns and of like scam products because they want to sell as many as possible. And by optimizing their SEO, they sell a lot of their patterns or they sell a lot of their scam product because they're optimized for SEO and they're one of the first people to pop up when you search up, granny square pattern or whatever it may be. So really optimizing your Etsy like name does kind of give me a red flag, especially when it's just a whole bunch of like kind of the same words. So for example, I have here down on my screen, hot dog granny crochet pattern. Now, this is a very simple, straightforward name that just says what the pattern is. There's no motif pattern, PDF download, all of that, like added on to make a, 30-word title to your listing. It is just straight to the point. This is what the pattern is. Now there's a couple of things that I would change just to make sure that you're communicating what the pattern is a little bit better, like adding granny square and also like PDF pattern, just so that we're adding in the words that people are looking for in a listing. But this makes me feel like it's done by a real person versus, I just look scrolling on Etsy, I saw cat face crochet motif pattern PDF, crochet motif pattern, cat granny square tutorial, lace crochet motif, instant download DIY. Like, that's a lot of words to describe just a cat face crochet granny square pattern, which is completely AI looking at the photos themselves. And I'll have pictures up, hopefully, of these listings when I talked about them. But not only like does the photo give me instant like ick, this looks like a pattern that is not real, plus it's really cheap, like I was saying earlier, but also the name. It's just trying to shove as many words as physically possible in the name so that it will just keep popping up as a top listing when people are looking at cat crochet patterns and cat granny square patterns and granny square patterns and motif patterns and all of that. It is just trying to pop up every chance it can because it's optimized for SEO. And that just makes it feel like it's not a real pattern by a real designer, and it gives me a red flag. So keep your listing names simple. You should describe your listing accurately. So, for example, with the hot dog pattern, hot dog granny crochet pattern. Again, if you just do hot dog granny square crochet PDF pattern, making those couple changes, it helps optimize it a little bit more, but still is just straight to the point of what the pattern is, which is a hot dog granny square pattern, and it's a PDF pattern. Like, it gives you all of the information in the name without it being 30 words long, and feeling like, again, it's not real, that it may be AI just because of the name. So the days of Etsy SEO, like, it is a path forward that you can take on Etsy, but honestly, I would rather you grow a social media presence and have a dedicated following for your patterns and designs versus trying to play the Etsy SEO game for your patterns, because you will sell more this way versus just trying to optimize your listings as your only direction. Now, those are 3 things that I see in Etsy listings for crochet patterns that give me a red flag that this may be AI. So if you are looking at listing your patterns on Etsy, please avoid doing any one of those 3 things. Use real photos, list your pattern at a price that is competitive to other similar patterns, and keep your names simple. They need to be descriptive, but they don't need to be 30 words long. That's just stressful, and it makes me think it's AI. So those are a couple of things. There's even more with Etsy that I look for when I am trying to see if a designer is real or not. But I just wanted to focus on listings for this video. Maybe I'll do another one when it comes to reviews, because that is actually something that other people are looking for when they're shopping for crochet patterns on Etsy. They're looking at reviews and looking for very specific things within the reviews to tell if it's real or not. So maybe I'll do that as a whole nother video. I know I mentioned it actually in a previous video about Ravelry versus Etsy. So you can watch that video where I talk about it a little bit, but I think I'll do another proper video on that. We'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to learn more about selling your crochet patterns online using Etsy, Ravelry, and all of that fun stuff, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel below. Like this video so that you continue to see more videos like this. And, in the comments below, I'd love to hear if you have any red flags on Etsy listings that make you think this might be AI, because there's a lot of them out there. And I'd love to hear your input. So yeah, that's it. Here's my drawn out Midwestern goodbye. Bye. See you in the next video.